welcome to the MHR Podcast, where we discuss the world of work in HR, payroll and finance. I'm Emma.
And I'm Andy.
How are you doing this week, Andy?
Yeah, I'm good. So we're trickling into towards the end of September now, right? Well, we're halfway through.
You're wishing it away.
I know.
Wishing the months away.
Last week we talked about going back to school because all the holidays are starting to end.
Yeah.
So everyone's kind of gearing up for another long slog of work. So what are we talking about this week?
So what I wanted to talk about this week is very much as we're getting into the swing of the new academic year, and a big thing that we manage here as well at MHR is introducing grads or Gen Z into the workforce. You know, we've got an influx of grads that have come in to us this month. They're just on their first couple of weeks of their management scheme, which is brilliant. It's a great opportunity for them. But I think it's also a good opportunity to have a look at how businesses and organisations are positioning their workforce and positioning their organisations to suit the changing needs of newer generations as they come in.
Yeah.
I think there's a bit of an assumption with kind of what goes out in the media and all that kind of thing of what the perception of Gen Z is in the workforce and what their expectations are.
So let's clarify then. So obviously, I mean, every year, lots of businesses do like a graduate scheme, and that's a really great way of bringing an influx of new talent into the organisation. Yeah. And it's also a really good time of year because obviously a lot of graduates now, you've finished university, if you've gone to university after 3 years and you're looking for those roles. So having graduate placements is great, but obviously typically not. You can get mature students, you get different levels of postgraduates, but typically you're looking at a much younger generation who are graduating, coming into the workforce for a graduate program. And I suppose that's a very good opportunity for a business to understand what that generation are looking for, but also what can we learn from them to make sure our business is still culturally relevant.
No, exactly. And I think it's important to note as well, as a fresh-faced graduate or, a person that's coming out of education of whatever level, going into a job for the first time into the employment market, that first job is incredibly meaningful and will have a lasting impact on them. Yeah. So it's really important that we take the time to cultivate that positive culture and make that a positive step for them to go into, whether that is a long-term job prospect or if it's a stepping stone place. We want to be able to, make those impacts. I
suppose it's important we discuss this because you've presented a stat here which says 27% of the workforce will be Gen Zers by 2025. That's only 2 years away. Well, less than 2 years away, if you think about it. So why is it important then? What do we need to consider if we know over a quarter of our workforce will be Gen Zers soon? What do we need to learn or what do we need to engage or do with that generation to make sure we're a company that wants to be or people want to apply for and work for?
Yeah, I think there's a few things. I think the first thing that I think we need to kind of iron out at this point is that it's quite easy to fall into stereotypes of what expectations are. So, they are a generation who consume media like no other generation. There is talk about a lot more kind of flexibility in the workplace and all of that kind of thing. That I think there's stereotypes there, but there's potentially some truth. But actually, when you get down to the crux of it, there are a few key points that a Gen Zer coming into the workforce is looking for. Okay. So I think, and this is what I want to cover today. Yeah. The first thing is that transparency. Okay. So they want to know that a workplace that they're going into have kind of an open policy. They do what they say on the tin, as it were. So no kind of false advertisement, being very clear on things like pay and clear on their kind of ethics and values as an organisation. Yeah. The second thing is is the nurturing side. Okay. So do they have a clear development plan in place for how they can, build themselves up in their career, and do they have the right kind of people and tools in place to help nurture that as well?
I suppose it's about being honest as well, right? So if
Yeah.
you talk to maybe older generations, there might be a different view on how early, how early a job for you is like a lifelong career.
Exactly.
And I think, especially looking at like the recruitment market and how things have changed in the last 2 to 3 years, there is a bigger shift on people's expectations of how long they want to be in a job or how long they should stay for a company in a way that benefits them. And I think it's probably beneficial, right, if both parties are of the same understanding that actually I'm coming here at a very young age with not the expectation to stay forever, but to really develop and grow myself. And if that works for me in the company, that's great, but actually, let's be honest about it, I'm at a very early stage of my career path or route. I want to get as much from this company as possible in order to grow into something bigger and better.
No, exactly. And that needs to be the perception of the employer as well of, okay, we need to get the most out of this tenure with this member of, with this member of our team. I think the final point that we can have a bit of a touch on quickly as well is striking a balance of what that role is. Okay. I think there's a bit of an assumption, certainly with kind of apprentices and graduates, that they get a lot of the kind of menial tasks initially as a way to kind of get them introduced to things. But actually, there's a great deal of intelligence and fresh ideas coming in. Utilise them in the best way and get them involved in those bigger ops. So what I wanted to go through today is just those kind of 3 key points there. So the transparency in the values and ethics of the business.
Okay.
Creating a clear development plan and pathway. And also, creating a fair and constructive workplace. So to be able to touch on those points, I wanted to just flag up a few tips and tricks that employers can do to make sure that they're creating a positive environment for Gen Z as they come into the workplace. So the first one that we've got is making that sense of community. So a big thing here is wanting to make them feel welcome. Okay. So making them feel like they are part of a bigger picture, they're part of a bigger project, and getting them involved straight away.
I suppose that's helpful because I suppose, again, I'm making assumptions. But if you're younger, you're less experienced, coming into a big company or whatever company of ever size, it can be really daunting, especially if it's your first experience coming into like the world of work. You're kind of learning socially how to deal with that. The bigger you can feel like you're thrown in the deep end or involved in anything, it helps break down that social barrier where actually I'm still learning as a person how I interact with people. I'm still learning as a person how I engage with different stakeholders. I'm still learning my confidence there. So if the business can do as much as it can to meet me halfway and go, well, we're going to make the introductions for you, so you can build your confidence to be that person you want to be and manage those.
Exactly. It's like being thrown in the deep end of the swimming pool in your pajamas, but you've always got a little lifeguard on the side that can help out if you need them. Yeah. Lots of people learn to swim that best way when they just got chucked in their pajamas. I mean, I can't say the same because I can't swim because I'm pathetic, but a lot of people do it that way. Yeah. But you want to see the same when it comes to grad schemes as well and apprenticeship schemes or, younger people coming into the workforce, is giving them the opportunity to get involved in the workplace culture straight away. Yeah. And a great way that employers can support that is by offering mentors to these younger people. That's good. Ideally somebody that either kind of sits out of their department or sits at a different level where there's no kind of management risk or conflict of interest there, but somebody that they can go to and they can work with and ask those silly questions if they feel they have them and feel comfortable being able to do so as well.
Yeah, because I suppose if you're feeling worried that you're going to someone that maybe you report to and you're junior, everyone goes, oh, I don't want to ask this stupid question. Well, there is no stupid questions, but if you don't feel like you can ask, you're never going to learn.
No, exactly. And I think it also breaks down that barrier of expectation that I think anybody coming out of education has on themselves. And I can vouch for this as well when I first left university, that there's an expectation that you should already know everything. And there's a cautiousness of asking questions for not wanting to sound silly.
Yeah.
So that's a really big one that employees can focus on, and also giving managers the training to understand how to handle those kind of conversations as well.
Okay.
And also understand how to treat those that come into the workforce with respect and understanding of the level of experience they have, and how to nurture that as opposed to hinder that.
Okay.
The second one that we've got, which we kind of touched on already, is ensuring that you've got a clear development plan in place for those that come in. So, we have a generation that are really eager to learn, really eager to progress.
Yeah.
So by setting out a clear development plan, it's showing them that you are taking the opportunity not only to invest in them as an employee, but also invest in their personal development for when they do make the decision to move on, should they want to.
I suppose as well, looking in terms of, we've got some fresh talent in the organisation. They've just come from a learning environment. The way they learn, their experience of learning is probably drastically changed to maybe people 10 years ago, 15 years ago. So as well as having that development plan, we need to review it. We need to make sure it's relevant still. Or is this, how people learn? Is this how new people engage with our business? How do we make sure that's up to date? Especially if you're looking at, say, you can have graduates now that have probably spent the vast majority of their learning experience over the last 3 years in a lockdown, isolated learning environment. So it could be that kind of interacting with large organizations or groups or stakeholders or projects teams is something they're used to doing in an online space, but not in a physical in-office space. How do we look at those, developing those interpersonal communication skills? That kind of thing, right?
The final point that we'd got that we pulled up on earlier is the assignment of tasks and assignment of roles. I think it's, as I mentioned, it's quite easy to assume that when you are coming in as a fresh-faced graduate or a fresh-faced kind of young person into the workplace, that you will get given the boring tasks to do. Get given the more administrative tasks, the admin fodder, as it's called. But actually, it's really, really important to get our younger workforce engaged with the bigger project earlier on. The bigger picture. Because that not only promotes positive engagement and getting them feeling like they are, a part of the team very early on. But it also works works really well from a personal development point of view. Also,
what's the business learning if we're just going to go, all this fresh talent we've got, we want you to do the things that we're not getting around to doing, which kind of menial. So thanks for spending, the last 3 years of your education focusing on this skill set, which we're not going to use. Like, we should actually be going, no, top level, straight away, how would you solve this problem? How can you make our business think in a different way? Because you're young, you're fresh, you've come with a different perspective. What can we learn from you? Because if we bring you in straight away and ask you to do the things we've been doing for 20 years in a slow, boring way, we're not improving, you're not improving, and we're learning nothing, and you'll just go somewhere else.
No, exactly. I think the idea of giving our fresh-faced members of the workforce the admin side of it is a very archaic way of thinking. And actually, it's important as well to bring in fresh perspectives into opportunities. You never know what you're going to get out of them unless you actually nurture them and give them the opportunity to use their voices and give them the platform. And that is also from an employer's and, selfishly from an employer's point of view, you also have the opportunity to mould that person into an employee that you want on your team as well. They are fresh-faced. They don't have the, they don't have any workings from any other workplace, that any habits that they're going to bring with them. And it's an opportunity to really nurture that. So it needs to be seen as a positive thing, and just take that risk because you never know what you're going to get out of it.
The last point you put here, just quickly, because it's a short one, but I found it quite funny thinking about it, was thinking about how maybe younger people come in and absorb media in different ways right now. Like marketing's changed drastically over the last 10 years. So why would you give someone the same marketing material who are 10 years younger who engages with different media? Like, so how can you induct or onboard new staff, younger workers in a way that's going to engage them, because that's how they're used to learning. The last thing you want to do is go, here's Sarah. Sarah's 21. She's come straight into us in a graduate program. She's got all these skills and talent, and we're going to give her this pamphlet from '94. And if you could have a read of that, because actually I know it's old, but I think it's the best thing we've done. And it bifold, you've got some inserts in there. And if you could give that a read, that's your day. It'll be they're not going to be interested. People need short, snappy content. Younger people digest information in a much more highly functional way where they're using interactive media. So you do need to think about that. I mean, in person's always great regardless, but the last thing you want to do is go, you see this old book, have a read of that.
You know, I actually had that. It wasn't my first job after my graduation, but it was the one after that. The way that I was onboarded was I was given what they refer to as the Bible that was about that thick of here's everything that you need to know off your pop, or here's some information on our intranet that you can use.
How disconcerting.
Even the word intranet feels very 90s, doesn't it?
How disconcerting would it be to go, we wrote that 10 years ago and we haven't changed it since. Good luck. You can help us change.
I know.
I don't think,
That's that like you say, that's the whole point of sort of fresh perspectives, isn't it? And being able to consume things in different ways. And it will force a business to have a think about what their onboarding process is as well, which is super important.
So you put a nice summary quote actually here for us to think about, which kind of wraps up the points that you've made today, which is, to ensure a positive and productive environment for young workers, employees must adapt to diverse needs, foster a welcoming culture, provide ample training, development opportunities, and align with their evolving priorities, right? So building stronger relationships, offering mentorship, transparent communication are all key. You agree with that?
Couldn't agree more.
There you go then.
So our producer segment has just come in.
Oh, okay.
So this week we've actually got it from the main man himself. We've got it from producer Lee.
Assistant to producer Tom is on holiday. We didn't sign that off. He just escaped. So
we'll have words when he gets back, I'm sure. So producer Lee signed this off as Studio Man. Need I say more?
Okay.
We've got the big cheese in this week. So, how do both?
Okay.
How do? This week you've been talking about Gen Zs entering the workplace.
Yeah.
I would like you both, with your many, many years of workplace experience, that's rude, to explain the one thing you deem absolutely vital in the onboarding experience.
Okay.
And he's put in brackets, please make sure it's not beanbags or ping pong tables.
Okay.
Duly noted.
What's yours then? What's your sage advice?
My sage advice, in my pearly wisdom as a younger millennial, shall we say, is getting. I mean, we've kind of touched on this already. It's just getting that communication in there early.
Yeah.
I think there's been, certainly not here, but in other work environments where that hasn't happened.
Yeah.
Whereby I've felt very kind of insular and siloed quite quickly into what my role will be, and not feeling like I've got that integration with the wider business, nor understanding the intent of the wider business either. I think being able to understand the objectives and the strategy of the business will, helps to motivate you and help you understand what you need to achieve with your position and what you can get out of the business. That's my boring response. My non-boring response would be Yorkshire tea on tap.
Okay. So my onboarding, best advice I ever learned, and what I think was onboarding, is to make sure that a candidate, a new starter, doesn't feel like they have to steamroll in and try and change the world straight away, because you have to accept that you're naive and you have to learn. The best advice I ever got was, you're going to take this month or this next 2 months and you're just going to learn, and you're going to listen, and you're going to talk to people, because there's no point you spending all your effort trying to change the world before you understand it. Right? So actually what you need to do is learn, listen, understand it, and then you can make a plan. Otherwise, you're just going to have to rewrite it later. Really helpful.
You sounded like the council Skype, where it's like, read them and understand
Read them and understand them. Yeah, just understand the world before you try and change it. Otherwise, you're going to have to change it again and again and again. And for me...
That's a lot of effort.
Yeah, for me, it's just making sure you've got some really good canteen options. That'll keep me in.
Always vital.
Yeah. There you go.
Well, there you go. Well, there's our boring and non-boring responses there. But no, this has been great. I think it's good to kind of gain perspective, certainly on this time of year when we see a lot of new cohorts coming into the world of work.
Yeah.
Some good advice there on how, employers can support those teams as they come in and support them as they get started out in their career.
Great.
So that's all we've got time for this week, Andy.
Okay.
Thanks everybody for listening as always. If you do want to find out more about what we offer, please visit www.mhrglobal.com. We are also on all of the social media channels as well. But until next week, I'm Emma.
And I've been Andy.
See you later.
Cheers.